Welcome back, everyone. It is the season of exposure. The Trump team continues to release documents that show just how tyrannical Team Biden actually was. And I don't use that term lightly, folks. Tulsi Gabbard, director of national intelligence, declassified Joe Biden's shocking plan titled The Strategic Implementation Plan for Dealing with Domestic Terrorism. No surprise, the media ignores the blatantly unconstitutional measures Team Biden ordered his Department of Justice to undertake in his quest to silence, persecute, and, as you know, even imprison conservatives. This is directly from the Biden plan, folks. Federal agents aim to track, quote, concerning non-criminal behavior. Well, if it's non-criminal, then why should it be concerning? What would this include? According to the report, visiting gun stores, using the term 2A, short for Second Amendment, of course, and even flying the Betsy Ross flag, that flag with the 13 white stars in that circle. And God forbid you fly the Don't Tread on Me flag. That kind of patriotism and defiance of a tyrannical government makes you, well, literally a domestic terrorist. The Biden plan is frightening, and the media is covering it up. The document calls on the United States to lead a global push to address disinformation. How many times have we heard that before? Which, of course, will get you canceled, debanked, or again, as we saw with J6ers, thrown in jail. Well, joining me now to talk about all of this is the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. He went through this Biden plan to combat domestic terrorism page by page. Dr. John Lott is with us. John, welcome to the program.
No, it's great to talk to you again. Thanks for having me on.
John, what is most concerning to you about what was released, I guess, besides the fact that the media refuses to cover it?
Right. Well, I mean, we had seen an earlier version that had been publicly released in June 2021, but that explicitly only went after criminals, which is quite a different take than what came out recently with Tulsi Gabbard declassifying the classified version of that, which, as you point out, explicitly talks about going after concerning non-criminals that are there. And, it brings into context a lot of the leaks that came out during the Biden administration. So, for example, we had FBI whistleblowers who talked about taking down the license plates for people that had attended school board meetings or going and spying on Catholics. When that came out, the Biden administration said, well, this fits in only with going after criminal activities. They didn't really explain how the particular license plates that they took down were involved in criminal activities. But what's clear from this is that was just a fig leaf, that they were actually looking at much broader types of individuals there than those who were engaging in criminal activities. And so when they got caught, it appears that they just were not being accurate and honest about what they were looking for people. And it also helps clarify some of the other things that happened. So you had lawyers that worked for Trump after the 2020 election. Obviously the administration was trying to make this big deal about the supposed insurrection by J6ers, but there were many people, lawyers that worked for Trump, who found that they were cut off from financial institutions, people who had, like John Eastman, who had a bank account at Bank of America, found that his bank account was closed, found that an account that he had at USAA was closed, that they went, because the document talks about debanking people, cutting them off from financial institutions. Just imagine your life if you can't have a checking account, if you don't have credit cards, if you don't have a bank account at all. Can you make it? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Cash is an option, but it's not the preferred option for most people.
John, I think the difference between conservatives and liberals, we look at the law, that the law is the law. And if you're skirting the law, then the investigators, federal agents, local law, whatever, has a right to investigate you if there's evidence of that. When I read a line that says concerning non-criminal behavior, it gets back to who's the one deciding what's concerning. Is it concerning that I shop at a gun store? Because that seemed to be concerning behavior. Or is it concerning that I go to school board meetings? Or is it concerning that I go to a Catholic church? Who's the decider? Right. This is so outside the bounds of constitutional.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, it's one thing for the government to go after criminal activity. It's another thing to go after people because they disagree. I mean, the lawyers that they went and debanked, they engaged in no criminal activity, going and representing your client. Essentially, what they want to do is make it so that they can destroy the lives of people who help conservative causes. You have Catholics or you have school board people. There's never been an accounting of whose license plates they were taking down. They're taking out all the license plates that were there. What possible justification? Nobody believes that all those individuals were engaged in some type of criminal activity, and this helps explain why they were doing the types of things that they were doing.
This debanking operation, they did it to gun store owners, taking away their ability to process credit card actions. It was called Operation Choke Point, and these documents actually talk about expanding Operation Choke Point. But then there's something else in here, and you pointed this out in your piece in Real Clear Politics, that they labeled, quote, disinformation, that it can lead to domestic terrorist recruitment. Now, again, who's deciding what's disinformation or not? But that alone sounds like a frightening prospect if the government's saying disinformation will lead to terrorist recruitment. And you know who the terrorists are. They're, of course, you and me, John.
Right. No, I mean, while the document will go and talk about a couple places freedom of expression, it even more frequently talks about the concerns about disinformation and about how they need to use things like the educational system in order to provide some resilience to young people to be able to keep them from being, misinformed about things, in order to protect democracy. It kind of reminds me of some of the reaction in Europe, after J.D. Vance's speech there in Germany, where they were saying essentially they need to engage in censorship in order to go and protect democracy and freedom of speech. If you don't protect things for people you disagree with, it's not really freedom of speech in there. And as you say, who gets to decide those things? Obviously, what the Biden administration viewed as disinformation, and we can see from the pressure that they put on internet companies, on social media companies, would be very different from what you or I would view in that.
Yeah.
And they talk about the U.S. taking the lead in trying to control the worldwide spread of information.
I'm so glad that you called attention to this in this Real Clear Politics piece that you wrote, because the mainstream media is not. And Dr. John Lott, as always, calling attention to things the mainstream media does not. Thank you for that, and we appreciate you.
Well, thanks for being there, Grant. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. This was Tulsi Gabbard today, talking about exactly what we're talking about here. Listen.
Let's just first of all point out what we know has been the problem for a very long time. One of the reasons why the American people voted resoundingly for President Trump was to root out the kind of politicization and weaponization of intelligence that has really undermined the trust the American people have in the intelligence community and the national security state, but really what also directly undermines our own national security.
Yeah, the mainstream media, think about it. They're not covering this story of this unclassified plan now that shows you just how far outside the bounds of constitutionality the Biden administration would go. The media ignores it on purpose because they don't want you to see it, because they're covering for their criminals inside the Democrat Party. All right, folks, with tariff fears affecting markets, many are worried about their portfolios, but there is good news. President Trump exempted gold and silver from tariffs, so you can still protect your savings with precious metals. To learn more, simply text America to the number 989898 for a free Birch Gold info kit on holding precious metals in a tax-sheltered IRA. Convert your IRA or 401k into a gold IRA with no money out of pocket. I trust Birch Gold. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, it's time you did too. Text America to the number 989898. There's no obligation, only information. All right, you believe this? 2 judges now. 2 have been arrested for their actions in aiding illegal alien gang members. That story's next.